Welcome to Wellness Wednesday. We are so excited to be here. Our topic today is incredible. You're not going to want to miss this. I have with us Bob Pearson, who is a legend with our Welcome to Wellness Wednesday. We are so excited to be here. Our topic today is incredible. You're not going to want to miss this. I have with us Bob Pearson, who is a legend with our company. He's somebody that I listen to and share his story with often. Bob Pearson has been with Neolife for Welcome to Wellness Wednesday. We are so excited to be here. Our topic today is incredible. You're not going to want to miss this. I have with us Bob Pearson, who is a legend with our company. He's somebody that I listen to and share his story with often. Bob Pearson has been with Neolife for how many years?
Only 47.
Only 47. And I've been with Neolife for close to that. Let's see. I was 1985 when I became a consumer. I am passionate. This is what I do. I'm passionate about helping people live healthier lives. That's my number one agenda. Before any personal gain or anything else, I love helping people get healthy. So we're here to talk about Bob Pearson, his story, and what he's going to share about mental health. So I'm going to hand it over to you, Bob. Take it away.
Okay. Okay. Well, thank you so much, Stephanie. I've really enjoyed talking to you last week or 2 weeks ago. We talked for quite a while, didn't we? Seems like
Yeah.
it was very enjoyable. And I really commend you. I admire your goal to help people as much as you possibly can. That's such a excellent, excellent goal. Very noble. So
Thank you.
congratulations on what you're doing. Okay, and Stephanie asked me to share a little bit on mental health, and I know a little bit about that because um, I had probably the highest level depression you can have for around 40 years. And the way I know it was the highest level you can get is because I got tested in my 20s and it showed 99% depressed. And the way I was raised, if you were depressed, then you were a loser. That's how we were raised. I don't believe that, but that's how we were raised. So when they said 99% depressed is the score, I was so humiliated. And I just tucked my tail between my legs and left because I was so embarrassed because that meant I was a loser in the mindset that I was raised with. Well, then I got tested again in my 30s and it showed 99% depressed. It didn't show 98, it didn't show 90, it didn't show 87, it showed 99. And so, same thing, I was so humiliated, embarrassed, I just left because I didn't like the stigma that the mindset I was raised with, and I'm a loser. Well, then I got tested again in my 40s and it showed 99% depressed. And that time I had the presence of mind. I knew 99% depressed sounded terrible, but I didn't know what it meant really. So I said, what does that mean? They said, that means out of 100 patients, you'd be the worst one, the
Wow.
worst. And so then I started thinking back into my childhood, and I can remember in second grade wishing I was dead and wishing I had never been born. So, it had been there for decades. And none of my friends believed my score because you've heard of people that blew their brains out, and everyone will say, we didn't even know they had any depression. Well, of course, because they learned how to mask it and conceal it and disguise it because they don't want to be called a loser. So none of my friends believed my score, but I was married at the time, and they had my wife take the 400 question test, which is written so skillfully that you cannot tell what they're getting at. And they do that on purpose so that you can't manipulate the score. So they said, answer these 400 questions like your husband would, answer these questions just like Bob would answer them. And the results came out 96% depressed. So see, Stephanie, she missed it by 3%. In my mind, that's dead on. Do you agree?
Yeah.
When they're only 3% off, that is extremely aware and perceptive.
Yeah.
Okay.
Uh-huh.
So believe it or not, it's not fun living with someone who's the worst out of 100 patients. Can you imagine that
I can't imagine.
that might not be fun? And when it's that extreme, it screws up a lot of other areas too. So she filed for divorce eventually. And at that point, I started having panic attacks, anxiety through the roof, got suicidal. And I was on 4 antidepressants. My family was forcing me to see a psychiatrist because they're afraid I was going to blow my brains out or do something bad. So I was seeing regularly a psychiatrist. She had me on 4 medications, not helping at all. My own secretary at the time told me not to come to work. That's pretty bad when the employee tells the employer not to come to work. She
Yeah.
said, you scare our customers because you look like death.
Wow.
So I couldn't work. And then fortunately, to a friend in the business, she's a licensed medical professional,
Uh-huh.
but she's so stinking smart on nutrition. She sells $4 to $5 million a year of Neolife.
Oh, wow.
4 to 5 million. I might have that wrong. It might just be 3 or 4 million, but that's a lot of volume.
Mhm.
And somehow she found out. She lives 2,000 miles from here, so someone must have told her that my life was hanging by a thread.
Yeah.
So she called me and she said, Bob, this is so simple. All you have to do is take 6 salmon oil and 5B complex, and you're not going to have any depression. Well, I thought she's crazy because A, it had been there for 40 years. B, I had spent a small fortune on counseling and
Wow.
get nowhere. And she says, oh, this is so simple. But she didn't say, I hope you won't have depression. You might not have depression. That's not what she said. She said, you will not have any depression.
Wow.
So I thought, well, and keep in mind, she's a licensed medical professional.
Wow. Uh-huh.
So I thought, well, I better do this because nothing else is working. So I start doing it. And on the very first follow up with the medical doctor, who's a psychiatrist, she does a thorough evaluation. The very first time I saw her after I started doing what Imajo said. And she does thorough evaluation. She takes me off one of the 4 drugs and cuts the other 3 in half. Next time I see her, thorough evaluation, same thing, cuts everything in half. Next time, thorough evaluation, cuts everything in half. Last time says, go off everything because you don't need this at all. And it makes me chuckle because she wasn't on the phone when my friend said, you're not going to have any depression if you do this. but she almost gave a direct quote of what the lady told me. She said, "You're not going to have any depression." And I said, I challenged the psychiatrist when she said, "Go off everything." I said, "I'm going to be out of the country in about 10 days. I'm going to China to do some smuggling and from Hong Kong into China, getting stuff past the communist border guards. And if I have a problem, I won't be in the country to get some meds or whatever." And she almost a direct quote of Emma Joe. She said, "Well, you're not having any problem." And that's exactly what Emma Joe said would happen. Is that amazing?
That's amazing.
Yeah. So since then, I found out that what causes depression and anxiety in a very high percentage of cases, not every case, of course, but in a very high percentage of cases, is caused by inflammation in the brain. And salmon oil, as you know, our brand, no other brands could I speak for, but our brand is clinically proven to reduce inflammation by 68% in only 8 weeks.
Yes.
And there's tons. I'll show you some of the articles that say it's caused by inflammation in a very high percentage of cases.
Wow.
Again, maybe not in every case. And the reasons for my depression, I don't know, but I've got plenty of reasons that would have been there. I was sexually molested many, many, many times by a leader in this community. I left home at age 11, which is pathetic. That happens to a lot of kids. Uh, I'm not going to say the profession, but the profession my parents were in, a lot of them leave home early, and that's pathetic. And then it may have been from birth that it happened too, because I didn't find out till I was 68. Or no, I was about 50 and going through a divorce. And I found out then a lot of things about our family that I didn't know. And my mom had not wanted to have me when she was carrying me. And I think that may have been communicated very well to me just in my spirit, because I never felt wanted and I never felt like I belonged to our family. And yet she was my real mom.
Wow.
But I think that may have got communicated in the womb that I wasn't wanted. I've heard babies can feel things because
Mhm.
I didn't know that history, but I thought I was adopted because I didn't feel wanted. And
Wow.
that's what a baby would feel if their mom didn't want them. And it
Yeah.
wasn't anything against me personally. It's just that they had so much conflict and hostility and tension in their marriage that I think any woman wouldn't really want to be pregnant when there's a war going on at home,
Yeah.
you know. So those may have been some of the reasons, I don't know. But in any case, none of that, my history changed by going on salmon oil and B complex. It didn't change anything in my history, but the doctor took me off all the meds. So
Yeah.
that's strong, isn't it?
Yeah.
That nothing changed
Yeah.
about who I am. The only thing that changed was I had the highest quality omega-3 on the market going into my body and the B complex. And the doctor could tell the difference because she'd do a thorough evaluation, watching my eyes, watching my facial expressions, watching my body language, listening to my tone of voice. She'd ask me all these questions to evaluate.
Yeah.
And every time she'd cut it in half, cut it in half, cut it in half, go off of it. Is that powerful?
Wow. Yes.
So even if somebody's messed up to the max, which I'm any counselor's cash cow dream case, they love to see a guy like me walk in their office, sexually molested, left home at 11, mom didn't want him in the womb. I mean, that's a counselor's cash cow. They love it.
Yeah.
Okay. So, but nothing changed. No counseling was going on then, just changed omega-3 and B complex. To me,
Wow.
that's pretty powerful.
Wow.
And so if your viewers might not know this, I should probably tell them the reason they want Neolife salmon oil only and no other brand ever, 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 is because there's 8 omega-3s and almost every single brand on the market has 2. End of story. Almost every single brand. Neolife alone, I've never found another company that has all 8 omega-3, but we do. Okay, night and day difference. Secondly, fish are notorious for contamination: lead, mercury, cadmium, PCBs, DDT, digoxins, on and on and on. And so because of that, I called Costco's laboratory, not a store, their laboratory, because they sell millions of dollars of fish oil. And I said to them, hey, how many contaminants do you guys test for? They said 5. Neolife tests for over 200.
Yeah.
Okay. So the night and day difference in quality. I mean, that testing for 5 versus over 200, that's pathetic right there. Then also, for the contaminants allowed, I went to one of the best health food stores in our area, very successful, looks like a palace in there. It's so fancy. So they're real successful and they've been there for decades. And I picked up their salmon oil because I want their fish oil because I want to see how it compared. And it says right on the label, this product only has 20 parts per million of lead.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so I about had a heart attack right there because everyone knows lead is a terrible contaminant.
Yes.
Terrible. And they're saying right on the label, this only has 20 parts per million of lead. So I kept reading the label. I was so shocked. And it said lead is pervasive. In other words, it's everywhere. You can't get away from it. So the federal government allows any company to have up to 40 parts per million of lead in their product. So now I see why they're bragging, because they have less than they're allowed. But Neolife has this much lead in our product, 0. And that's tested down to parts per million, 0. And
Yeah.
that's how much we allow, 0 parts per million of all 200 plus contaminants we test for.
That's amazing.
Amazing.
Yes.
So night and day, there's no comparison. And ours is clinically proven to reduce inflammation, as I said, 68% in 8 weeks. And that's not just good for depression and anxiety, which inflammation in the brain is definitely involved in both of them. Um, but it's everything, because like Crohn's disease, it's inflammation in the gut. IBS is inflammation in the gut. Alzheimer's has inflammation underlying it. Dementia has inflammation underlying it. Everything, cancer has inflammation underlying it. So does heart disease. So the inflammation's everywhere. And I've heard, I haven't studied this, but I've heard that it accelerates aging as well, just like oxidation does.
Yes.
So in my mind, you'd almost be crazy not to use the Neolife salmon oil, because inflammation, if it's true that it accelerates aging, well, none of us wants to age faster, and we already know for sure it's underlying almost every disease. So why would if there's something so simple you can take and it's more complete than everyone else's, has all 8, has 0 parts per million of all these contaminants that are normally found in fish, why wouldn't you use it? You'd be crazy not to use it.
Yeah. Oh,
So
yeah.
so that's a little bit on my story.
I want to just say, I think I heard you say it another time that we don't have a deficiency in Prozac. Was that you that said that?
Might have been. Very true, 100% true. And the antidepressants only work on about 20% of people. That's it.
Wow.
And of course, they say right on them, some of them say right on them that they cause suicidal ideation and they
Yes.
cause anxiety and depression.
Yeah.
And as you just pointed out, we don't have a deficiency of Prozac.
Right.
So can I share my screen? Because I have
Yeah.
a few slides
Please
I
do.
should show you. Okay. A few slides I should show you. Um, hopefully this is the right one. Can you see that me
Yes.
with the other people? Okay.
Yes.
So this story is just absolutely shocking. Um, Jeff there and his wife and I, Jeff had crippling, debilitating anxiety so bad he couldn't hold a job. Couldn't hold a job. And to go outside, the only way he could do it is if he took his 4-year-old with him to calm him so he
Wow.
wouldn't lose it, or if he could see Sherilyn through the windows. Because the anxiety is so severe. And he doesn't have a messed up background like I do. He comes from a very fantastic family, and so does his wife. But the anxiety was absolutely crippling. And his sister sells Neolife, and she begged him to go on our breakfast pack. So he goes on the breakfast pack. In only 3 months, he's off all three meds. And where he couldn't even hold a job before, now he owns two businesses. Is that
Wow.
amazing?
That's amazing.
And what the businesses are is quite amazing. He tunes pianos that cost $200,000.
Wow.
And some, I think he might go as low as 50,000. And he has to drive 2 hours from his somewhat rural area to a big city where these are. Before, he couldn't leave his yard. He couldn't even leave his house unless he could see his wife through the window. Now he drives 2 hours to these mansions, because if you got a $200,000 piano in your house, you're not in a shack.
Right.
And he said that 5% of his success is his ability to tune the piano, and 95% is his ability to connect with the owner of the house. Because he said, I'm in their personal house, their residence, for 2 to 4 hours working on their piano. And if I can connect well with them, they're going to invite me back and they're going to refer me. But before, if I understood him right, he was saying he didn't want to communicate with anyone, because the anxiety. So is that a total change?
That's amazing. I
Yeah.
love that story.
And see, the really important thing is it shows it doesn't just change one life. You think that didn't change his wife's life
Yeah.
and all his kids, that daddy now has self-esteem and he holds a job. He does very beautiful work on magnificent pianos. And he can talk to the owner of the house for 2 or 3 or 4 hours while he's there working on it. What I'm
That's
trying to say, change the whole family, right?
Yeah.
So it's just tremendous. So that's quite a story, I tell you.
I love it.
This is all he took: Pro
Wow.
Vitality and the shake. And this is someone important to know, Kelly Brogan. Her credentials are like off the chart. Have you heard of MIT, Stephanie?
Yes.
Okay, you got to be really, really sharp to get in there.
Uh-huh.
And she went to MIT in systems neuroscience. Then she went to Cornell University Medical College, psychiatric training and fellowship at NYU Medical Center. So top school. She's board certified in psychiatry, integrative holistic medicine. And she's pretty funny because she said she was on both sides of the prescription pad. Not only was she writing them by probably the thousands, but she was on them too.
Wow. Wow.
And she's specialized in root cause resolution approach to psychiatric syndromes and symptoms. Now, she's a practicing clinical psychiatrist. She says that depression is not a chemical imbalance. And I just put this in there because it seems like without fail, we're told that you have a chemical imbalance in your brain. And here, this is from a high-ranking medical doctor. She says, no, it's not. She says, in 6 decades, not a single study has proven that depression is caused by a chemical imbalance in the brain.
Wow.
That's from a grad of NYU and
Wow.
MIT and Cornell. She says, before we can qualify something as abnormal, we must first establish what normal looks like. A normal mix of brain chemicals has never been established because neither the scientific community nor the field of neuroscience has been able to define the optimal brain state. So do you get what she's saying? She said,
Yeah.
you can't, if you don't even know what optimal brain state is, there's no way you can say you have a chemical imbalance. Does that make sense to you?
Yes.
Yeah. So to me, like, she pulled the cover off the hoax. And she doesn't seem to have anything good to say about antidepressants, I'll tell you that. And she, if I understood her writing correctly, she said that the longer they've been on antidepressants, the more frequently they have episodes, which it means they have to be hospitalized, institutionalized. She said not only does it, the longer they've been on them, the more often they have those, but the longer it takes to recover from them.
Yeah. Wow.
So that's what she said. And okay, so patients of Dr. Brogan that had struggled with depression for decades, taking all the prescribed drugs, some had attempted suicide or had been hospitalized for extreme manic episodes. Once we addressed the chronic inflammation that was keeping them in a perpetual physiological state of high alert, all symptoms of depression abated. Is that amazing?
Wow. Yeah.
Beautiful, huh? So she addresses chronic inflammation, and then the symptoms disappear
Wow.
or abated, whatever that means. So that's from a high-ranking medical doctor. And this is what doctors don't tell you. Mood swings are worse. It's not mental illness, it's inflammation. I'm just going to go through these really fast. Here's showing on our salmon oil, clinically proven to reduce inflammation by 68% in 8 weeks. Depression, anxiety, postpartum depression. I have a slide about that later, just a little bit. Bipolar, ADD, ADHD are all things that may be helped with
Wow.
omega-3. This is by Kelly Brogan, the lady I was just talking about. And this book, The Truth About Depression and How Women Can Heal Their Bodies, A Mind of Your Own. That's by her. She said, here's what she recommends. And this cracks me up, Stephanie, because I don't think she knows anything about Neil Life. But she recommends an anti-inflammatory diet, which should consist of healthy fats. Well, in the Pro Vitality, there's treating and salmon oil. That's healthy fats, right?
Yeah.
Okay, then she says vitamins. Okay, that's in Pro Vitality. Antioxidants, that's carotenoids, and plenty of high quality protein. So that's nearly a precise description of a breakfast pack, right?
Yes.
So here, this is from a high ranking medical doctor. And she says balancing blood sugar is one of the most effective treatments for depression and anxiety. Well, that's what our
Wow.
shake does. It balances blood sugar. And she says that's
Yep.
one of the most effective treatments.
Wow.
Isn't that amazing?
Yes.
And this is like a story of what happened to Jeff, the first guy I showed you, and went on the breakfast pack. And in only 3 months, he's off all 3 meds.
Yeah.
So, so there's what he took. That's it right there. And that's basically what she just described.
That's incredible.
Yeah. So they say omega-3 essential fatty acids are crucial for healthy brain and nerve cells. A study published in Nutrients found that people who ate salmon, which is high in omega-3, 3 times a week over an extended period, showed improved heart rate and reduced anxiety. Inflammation, anxiety disorders are associated with increased inflammation. Neolife salmon oil is anti-inflammatory. Okay, we've talked about that. This is severe depression linked with inflammation in the brain. That's from JAMA Psychiatry. Then here's new research shows depression linked with inflammation, plus 5 ways you can fight inflammation. Here is brain inflammation linked to suicidal thinking and depression. That's from Neuroscience News.
Wow.
Here's current psychiatry, depression, inflammation, examining the link. So see, there's tons of this work. Here's another medical doctor fighting depression and improving cognition with omega-3 fatty acids. So this is not some fringe thing.
Yeah.
Lots of researchers are confirming this. Now, I think we're almost to the end here. This is by one of the most highly placed mental health professionals in the United States. You see his title there is Director of Psychopharmacology, Harvard, Director of Psychopharmacology, Harvard Med School. Okay, that's going to be one of the highest placed mental health professionals in the nation. And this guy is on omega-3 himself. His wife is on it, and all his kids are on it. So he believes in it down to his toes. Here's his table of contents. It says that it can be used for postpartum depression, fighting major depression, bipolar, attention deficit, memory, and cognition. Amazing. So you can help all
Yeah.
those things. And so this is one of my daughters. And do you think she's pretty, Stephanie?
She's beautiful.
I think so. And I just got to tell you, her mom and I had some genetic testing done on her because we had some health questions. And the report came back that her good looks came from the father's side.
Oh, of course. Yeah.
Yes. Yes. So Carrie told me, she said, Dad, I know women who cry for weeks and weeks and weeks after the baby is born.
Uh-huh.
She said, I have zero problem because I use omega-3. And I'm just telling you that because, see, he's got a chapter here on postpartum depression.
Yeah.
So,
I personally felt the same way. I had postpartum depression after my first, sorry, my kids are fighting. But yeah, I suffered from it in my first time, and the second and third babies, I was on all of it, so I didn't have any symptoms at all. I felt all the good feelings of having a new baby after that.
Wonderful. Fantastic. Well, uh, this is my other daughter on the right there, and she has used it during her pregnancies and no problem. And I was told the reason for the pregnancy depression is that the baby's brain, I don't know if this is true or not, but this is what I was told, during the second and third trimester is developing like crazy. And it takes a lot of omega-3 to make the brain. And if the
Uh-huh.
mom's not consuming enough, the baby will take it from the mom's body. And then I think anyone who drops too low, they're going to kick into depression.
I love that you just said that. I've heard that too.
So,
And I think there's a lot of truth in that. And I've always, my second and third pregnancy, I was really big into taking my omega-3s throughout my pregnancies. I think it's better for the baby's brain as well.
okay. Can you hold on just a second? I have to go in the other room just for a minute.
Yes. All right. I just want to go off of what he's talking about because I love what he's saying. He's incredible. This guy has I've heard his testimony years and years ago. His grandfather had multiple heart attacks. I'd like to have him back on another show to talk about his grandfather. He had multiple heart attacks and Parkinson's, and they didn't think he was going to live much longer. And he got on a good program, and he with Dr. Jim McAfee, who gave him advice, and he had no more heart attacks, and he lived 20 more years with very minimal shaking from his Parkinson's, and he had a happy, thriving life. And I know Bob Pearson's dad also has an incredible story where he was out like rototilling in his 80s or something like that. He's got an incredible story. Um, so anyway, welcome back.
Thank you. So I'm pretty much done. If you have any question you want to ask me, I'll try to answer, but pretty much done.
Okay. No, this is so helpful. I think that our viewers are going to love this because there are so many benefits to um just simply changing a few things in your life and supplementing maybe to help with mental health because I mean I know when you take an antidepressant or something, you're just putting a band-aid on this wound, but you're not treating the wound and the wound doesn't go away. And here's a perfect example of this. My son had his toenail removed, and the doctor said, don't put a band aid on it, only just for the first, couple of days while it's bleeding, but take it off because the moisture from the band aid would cause it to grow fungus. He kept it on secretly. And it was all gross and fungus and everything because he just kept a band aid on, thinking, okay, well, if I can't see it, it's better. It's fine. And I think it's the same thing with medications. When we're just drugging ourselves, if you stop those drugs, it's going to come back and you're not healing anything. Really, you're just treating a symptom. It's, hiding it. But you really have those issues underneath of all of it. So anyway, um, thank you so much, Bob. This was so informative. If you want to get a link to salmon oil or the Super Bee or anything that we talked about, just comment in the comments that you want a link to how to buy it, and we can send you a link for discounts. And thank you so much for watching. I'm going to end this here. Have a great day. Bye.